is Yasmin, and today I want to talk about my experience volunteering in Seoul, South Korea. I first came to Korea in January of 2019. During that time, I studied Korean with EF, and that was an incredible experience. First, let's talk about how I got started. First and foremost, why did I decide to volunteer at an abandoned dog shelter? First and foremost, I really wanted to give back to the community. When you set your own time aside to volunteer, you experience the absolute pleasure and the joy of making someone else happy, which in turn will also make you happy. Secondly, I also really wanted to try and interact with locals here in South Korea. I didn't have too much prior experience with working and interacting with locals since I'd gone to international schools. And lastly, and most importantly, I absolutely love dogs. I mean, who doesn't? Next, let's talk about when I started and how I got started at that specific dog shelter. The shelter is called Seoul 유기동물 입양센터, also called Seoul Abandoned Animals Center. I first started in May of 2020. The location of the shelter is quite far from where we live. It takes me an hour and roughly 15 minutes to get there. However, I found that it was completely worth it. What kind of things can you expect to do there? What did I do at the shelter? First and foremost, I did the work that I was assigned to do. The managers typically assign the volunteers to do one or more of the following tasks. It could be walking dogs, washing and brushing, cleaning the facilities, or just some of the few things that I have done consistently. Furthermore, I wanted to dive deeper into how I could help the shelter out and how I could help out the dogs at the shelter so that they had an easier chance of finding their new loving forever families. The biggest thing that I wanted to do, and I was also able to do, I created and I ran a fundraiser. And I could talk very long about how much joy that brought me, how happy I was to be able to donate that money to the shelter. However, if you're interested in hearing more about specifically the fundraiser, I highly encourage you to check out my last video in which I talk all about the fundraiser. Another thing that I wanted to try and help out with was a lot of the documentation, the rules and the menus, all those kinds of things were all in Korean. So I translated their adoption documents. There's a set of rules that you need to follow if you do go to the cafe. I also translated that. And lastly, I recognized that I had a wider international community that I could reach out to. So I wanted to take some pictures of the dogs that I could post on social media in hopes of spreading the word and hopefully gaining more attention to this specific shelter so the dogs there can find their new homes faster. I'll put a link to that Instagram in the description if you're interested in checking that out. So in conclusion, what did I learn from this experience? Being able to interact with these abandoned dogs, being able to put my own needs aside in order to put someone else, or in this case, put the dogs in front of myself, has absolutely been eye-opening. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, say that I was able to see with my own two eyes that I did make a difference, and that the work that the managers and the volunteers in this community, they do for this shelter, it does make a difference in saving lives and being able to help these dogs move on from being abandoned dogs into being new loving pets for their new lives, which they deserve. I would also say every single time I came in for the volunteering session, the managers were always super welcoming. I didn't know what to expect the very first time, but every single day I come in there, the managers are always so kind and they're so patient, and although communicating can be a little bit hard, they're open and willing to anyone. They really opened their hearts to me, and that was such a pleasure to be a part of that. I could never thank them enough for giving me this opportunity and for being so sweet throughout the whole process. Furthermore, I also got to interact with a lot of the customers at the cafe, which brought me even more joy. People were always just so kind to me and of course curious, what am I doing there? Where am I from? And there's just always that room and that fellow love for dogs. A lot of the customers that do come in are also kids, and sometimes kids are not always able to read body languages of dogs if they don't want to be touched or if there's a specific area they don't like being touched in. I was able to let them them know that, oh, the dog likes being petted here, efficiently making it a really nice place to go to for a learning experience for people that might not have as much experience with dogs, but also a fantastic atmospheric place for people to come to that just want to have a really nice time playing with dogs. So to wrap this whole thing up, I can just completely say that this experience has been eye-opening for me. It's been absolutely gratifying, and these are lessons that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." I feel like I can relate to that after this experience. I was able to learn a lot about myself. I was pushed outside of my comfort zone. The feedback that I received and the kindness that I was shown from the locals at the shelter, the managers, the customers, other volunteers, the community coming together, that kindness, it really encouraged me to do my best, not only for myself, but most importantly for the dogs. We've reached the end, and I would like to thank everyone for listening to my experience, and bye!